What up, Dude Bros? I'm Frank. This is a video review on two blasters in the new Nerf Laser Ops Pro series. This is laser tag by Nerf, like Hasbro Nerf. This is still Coop 772 foam flinging entertainment. I'm not going to do water guns, but these laser guns are super cool and I want to do a review on them. Too long didn't read, it's at-home laser tag by Nerf. Like it's 1990s, bro. In this video, I'll be reviewing the Deltaburst. This is a 3-round burst carbine style blaster, and the Alphapoint, a semi-automatic pistol. I'll also be going over the general game dynamics and the app that's paired with these devices so you can kind of enhance your gameplay. But for any fellow dinosaurs out there who just hate being forced to link into Bluetooth before you can use the expensive thing you just bought, you can boot these up in a matter of seconds and play completely without a smartphone, completely without Bluetooth. Just like you'd pick up two Nerf guns and just start shooting each other, it is that easy if you want it to be. The app can enhance your gameplay, but it's not mandatory. So let's get into the review. The Deltaburst comes with the blaster itself, a rubber wristband, phone blaster mount, and the instructions. I was sent the Alphapoint 2-pack set, which includes 2 Alphapoint pistol blasters, 2 rubber wrist straps, and the instructions. The Deltaburst requires 6 AA alkaline batteries, while each Alphapoint only requires 4. Installing the batteries is very similar between the two blasters. Loosen and remove the front battery cover, remove the battery tray, install the AA alkaline batteries, reinstall the battery tray, and replace the battery cover. These are purely electric blasters with no mechanical priming or anything, and it's not even like a flywheel electronic. This isn't shooting anything other than an IR beam. So obviously the batteries are absolutely required to turn them on or to shoot or do anything. The operation of the blasters are very similar to each other, so I'll start with the Alphapoint pistol. So up front you have the battery tray, as I just mentioned. The front barrel looking thing is where your laser flies out of your blaster when you want to shoot the other blaster. These blasters work with IR or infrared technology, which is pretty common in laser tag. Infrared is not visible to the human eye, so when you shoot you're not going to see like a Star Wars style laser beam flying out of your blaster. So you actually have to use your iron sights and know how to aim, which is kind of unique for Nerf. Typically just kind of like shoot, guess and check and keep adapting. This, you have to look down your irons and line up your shots. This red thing is the receiver dome. This is where your IR receiver is. The barrel is your IR emitter, or your where you're shooting from. This is your target. Instead of like a bulky laser tag vest, it's integrated into the blaster, which has 2 major strengths in my opinion. First, it's simple. You don't have to wear a vest or like deal with setting it to different body shapes. You just pick up the blaster and you're ready to go. And there's always that guy who cheats and hides his body and does blind fire and nonsense where they hide their receiver or like the chest plate underneath an obstacle or something, and you can always find a way to cheat. But this has the emitter right next to the receiver, so it's pretty difficult to cheat without like blatantly just covering it like this. And attaching the receiver to the blaster changes the entire language in the app and the instructions. You're never shooting at a person. It's always about this blaster defeating that blaster. Reminds me of like battleships. You don't think of people shooting at people, it's people operating the battleship, which is trying to destroy the other battleship. I don't have a positive or negative opinion on that aspect, but I just think it's interesting. Then you have a sling mount here and another sling mount here. Up on the top here you have your light, which indicates which team you're on when your blaster's on. So to turn the blaster on, you hit the power button right here. And since I'm not going to connect to the app right now, I have 3 options. I could be purple team, red team, or blue team. To switch through the teams, I press the reload button, this little orange thing down here. Red and blue are their obvious team designations. Blue shoots at red, red shoots at blue. If a blue tries to shoot another blue, it doesn't register, so you can't like team kill your friends. And purple is free-for-all mode, where there are no teams. It's worth noting, if you're purple, you can't shoot blue or red people, so you want your whole group to be on the same page. If you start out blue versus red, you can't randomly go rogue into purple and just start shooting everybody. The game won't let you do that. After you scroll to your desired team, you pull the trigger, and that starts up the blaster, and now I'm ready to play in the game. Just to show how fast it is to boot this up without using the app, you turn it on. Now, assuming a red guy's around me, I can start shooting very quickly. If there are any fellow dinosaurs out there like me, it doesn't have to be connected via Bluetooth to the app to play. You can just pick up 2 blasters and start shooting at each other. I despise being forced into the connection, so I have to verify an update or some nonsense. I just hate that. So I really appreciate being able to boot it up very quickly and not having to deal with the Bluetooth or the app at all. However, this boots into very simple gameplays. Using the app allows you to power up and like level up the blaster to make it stronger, better defense, and you have like special perks and power-ups. It's definitely worth exploring, but it's great that you don't have to connect to Bluetooth every time you want to play. Moving on in the blaster overview, now that I'm on blue team and I'm ready to go, if I want to start firing, I just pull the trigger. There's no prime action, it's a semi-auto, so I just keep pulling the trigger. You don't have unlimited ammo, you do have like a magazine or something like that. So when you deplete it, you can reload pressing this little orange button like that. Next to the power button is your settings to change from inside to outside. I'm not sure precisely what's being modified for these two settings, but it has to do with the receiver and the emitter, because the sun can mess with your receiver and maybe distract from your emitter, I'm not sure. And this little circle here is the speaker. Every time you pull the trigger, it makes a gunshot. When you get hit, it makes a sound, and that's just the speaker where the sound's coming out of. Other than physically muffling the speaker, there's no mute button or anything, because when you shoot somebody, their blaster makes a sound, so it's kind of like a hit marker, sort of. In the rear of the blaster, you have these two little symbols, and they're illuminated in green right now, but they change to yellow and red to indicate how much ammo you have left and how much health you have left. When it changes from yellow to red will depend on what like upgrades you have and stuff, because you can change the power, the ammo capacity, and your like hit points. And up top we have iron sights. Now I think it's hilarious. These are super wide, vague iron sights, and the laser guns all have a claimed range of 225 feet. So I think it's kind of funny that they put such vague iron sights on literally the most accurate Nerf gun ever created, because it's like F off gravity, I'm a light beam, brah. Without dart drop, it's pretty easy to hit stuff. Moving on to the grip. Now the grip is a little weird, and if this were a Nerf gun, I'd totally be complaining about it. When they put finger indentations like this, it's super comfortable if your hand happens to be perfectly fit for it. But for everybody else's hand, it's super uncomfortable. That's why those like flat grips are kind of universal. I have a big hand, so this isn't my favorite, but it's a pretty lightweight blaster, and you don't have to prime it. Because it's a laser gun, you're not mechanically priming it. Like how you operate it is just so different than Nerf guns. So I mean, you could totally play a whole game like this and perform just as well as using it like a normal Nerf gun. So the weird grip, if you choke up on it and kind of just change your grip, it's not really a big deal. So it's not my favorite, but because it's on a laser gun that just works with different like hand mechanics and ergonomics and all of that, it's fine. And underneath the grip is the reload button. When you deplete your shots to reload, you just hit it, and then you get the cool sound effect. So to recap, user input or buttons that you can actually like manipulate. On, off, inside, outside, trigger, and reload. It's a very simple blaster, but it doesn't feel restrictive or overly simplified. I enjoy playing it. And it's easy to learn very quickly, so you could totally hand this to somebody and they can learn how to use it very quickly. Like when you hand somebody a strong arm or a Maverick. You just give them like 3 instructions and they know how to do it. If you hand somebody a regulator, that might take like a whole paragraph. Yeah, a whole paragraph. So that's the overview of the Alphapoint blaster. Now to the Deltaburst carbine blaster. The Deltaburst works just like the Alphapoint pistol with a few minor changes. The front emitters are identical, and I'm told the accuracy and range are the same between both blasters. So it's not like a carbine will give you better accuracy or a longer range or sniper status or anything like that. I haven't found a space large enough to test these blasters beyond 200 feet, so the performance being identical is just a claim from Nerf. I haven't tested that yet. But the emitters look the exact same, the battery tray looks pretty similar, but the Deltaburst runs on 6 AA alkaline batteries instead of 4. And the receiver dome is the exact same shape, so you won't have an advantage of a smaller target or anything like that. The orange stuff right here, first you have the power button to turn on the blaster. Just like the Alphapoint, you cycle through purple, red, or blue. So cycle through using the reload button, and then push the trigger to activate it. Now I'm locked into the blue team and ready to start shooting people, or other blasters. Next to the power button, we have the inside-outside switch, just like the Alphapoint. And this little orange thing is a reciprocating bolt, kind of. You don't prime the blaster, it just moves when you fire, like this. And there's built-in haptic feedback, which kind of vibrates the blaster to let you know you're shooting. Since you can't watch your darts fly out of the barrel and you don't feel the darts strike you when you get hit, I really like the haptic feedback. It makes it feel a bit more real and less like you're just pointing a TV remote at people and trying to shoot them. And if you could hear, the Deltaburst is a 3-round burst blaster. There's no selector switch, no full auto, it's locked into that 3-round burst. Has the same style speaker right here, and it has pretty much the same volume as the Alphapoint. Has the same super wide, vague iron sights, so when you're shooting at 200 feet, it'll be pretty tricky to line up that shot. I mean, these irons are really wide for engaging at like 20 feet. I really can't imagine hitting stuff at 200 feet, not even considering the accuracy or the precision of the blaster, just lining up these irons. I mean, what year is it? Who uses irons? I run an RMR or a red dot. Pfft. Now I can justify being an elitist snob with my optic tech. Because it's a laser gun. If you're shooting lasers, why are you using irons? Like, come on. Gotta have a red dot or something. That's a joke. Or a bad joke. Moving on. The Deltaburst also has an indicator in the back, just like the Alphapoint, but it doesn't just simply say green, yellow, red. It has the actual numbers. So it tells you how many rounds you have left, or laser beams, ammo shots. You have 12 units left to fire, whatever you're firing. And below that you have your health. So when you get hit, you can look down at a glance to see how many hit points you have left, or laser points. Whatever. Give me a break, bros. I run a Nerf channel, not a laser channel. I'm trying to learn. This display with the precise integers seems like a huge upgrade from the color coding, and it looks super cool with a very clear, crisp readout. I mean, right when I picked it up, I felt like it's definitely something out of Halo, like that alien carbine. Moving on, this has a similar grip to the Alphapoint, and it has that finger indentation that I mentioned. If your hand fits, it'll be super comfortable to have that finger indentation. I have relatively thin fingers, so it doesn't feel super comfortable to me. But just like the Alphapoint, when you're shooting laser beams, you don't really have to hold it like a normal Nerf blaster. You don't have to prime or charge it or really put much stress on the shell at all, because you can fire it however you want like this if you wanted to. So I'm sure you'll find a comfortable way to hold it. Again, if this were on a Nerf blaster, I'd totally be complaining about it, but it's not. And moving on, I have to point out that the texture on the stock back here, it's kind of reminiscent of carbon fiber, and it looks super cool. It's just a little texture extruded into the plastic, but it looks like awesome and very laser-like. I like the styling. It looks super cool, like a laser gun, because it's a laser gun. Shoots freaking lasers. Or infrared, whatevs. And in the back, you have a sling mount right here and another one right here. Just like the Alphapoint, the only user input is the trigger, the on-off, the inside-outside, and the reload button. There aren't any in-strike tactical rails like hidden cubbies or storage compartments. It's a very simple blaster, so nothing else really needs to be explained. So when you boot up more than one blaster, you want to start shooting at each other, obviously. Again, these work on infrared, so this is the emitter, or you can think of it as the barrel. That's why it's, in the location of the barrel. When you pull the trigger, the IR is shot out of the barrel. Like, think of it like a Nerf dart, and it makes sense. So you go pew pew, and it shoots the laser. For it to count as a hit on your opponent's blaster, it has to strike the receiver dome, which is this little red thing here. If I were standing behind the camera shooting at this receiver dome, I'd be able to aim about here, and it counts as a hit. So this is either a super active receiver, or the IR being emitted is like a shotgun or a super broad signal. So it's not like laser accurate, like you're trying to shoot a laser pointer. It's more like a flashlight, kind of. I don't know how that'll affect being able to hit your opponents at range, like at 100 or 200 feet, but inside a house, it gives you a small margin of error, which is pretty cool, because that's a really small target. It would be kind of annoying if you had to hit like laser accurate, like a laser pointer. You'd be running around not getting any hits, and it'd be like a freaking soccer match. So it's nice that you have a little bit of leeway. So gameplay, when you boot up without the app, you can be in red versus blue or free-for-all. The rules are pretty much the same, so when you start shooting at each other, and when you deplete the other person's lives, it has a cool little like death song. And there's no volume button or a mute button. The only way to mute it is to physically cover the speaker. In the normal game mode, when your blaster is defeated or your lives are depleted, my back little screen is still on, but my main light is out, indicating I'm no longer an active player. Of course, if I pull the trigger, I've rejoined the game, effectively. There's no host blaster or anything, so you can turn them on and off and keep shooting at each other kind of indefinitely, which I like, because without the app, it is just kind of start up and start shooting at each other and kind of having lighthearted fun. If you're really competitive and you want to like kick other people's tail in laser tag, you'll definitely want to get into the app. So if there's a blue versus red game going on and somebody just goes into purple and free-for-all, you're not able to just shoot everybody. This receiver or this emitter is like set up in a cool way, so this knows to only die when blue people shoot at it. And if your teammate bothers you, you can't shoot them to shut them up. Or you can shoot at them, but it doesn't count. Got to shoot at the other team. So that's the overview on the individual blasters and the basic combat mode. This is a smartphone wrist mount, so you link it into these little stretchy corners, and then you wrap it around your arm like a really big wristwatch, kind of. So when you're walking around with your laser gun in one hand, you're able to look at your wrist and still use your free hand. So you don't have to carry the phone, it's just attached to you, like a wristwatch. Now this isn't as tight as I would like, but if you get really hardcore into the hobby, you can always buy one of those like jogger phone holders, because this doesn't offer anything specifically for the laser tag game. This is just to hold the phone to your wrist. And if you go on Amazon, you can spend $10 on like a jogger thing to mount this with a really nice mount. And the blaster thing is just a piece of plastic with this little rubber thing used up on the top to lash the phone to the little piece of plastic. So that is the hardware. Let's dive into the app. The app is compatible with the Apple iOS and Android. I have tested it on both. However, I don't want to get too specific on the app because it might be updated and changed, and I want this review to be relevant forever. Forever. Eternity. And an update can completely rewipe the app, whereas they can't really like mechanically change this since this is in my home now. So the basics of the app: single player and multiplayer. Single player you can use with a mount like this. It uses augmented reality, which isn't really augmented, it's just a very surface level thing. It hijacks your phone's camera, so whatever your camera is pointing at, like my living room right now, I could see on my screen. And then in single player mode, it overlays like spaceships, and then you shoot them down and score points. I played for about 15 minutes and then kind of got bored of it. I don't think these are really optimized for a one-player game. If I want to play like a first-person shooter and I don't have friends over to shoot at them, I'll just play like Call of Duty or something on a console instead of like this thing. It's pretty cool to like level up your blaster and to kind of get used to the controls, but it is a pretty simple game. If you whip it out just to kind of test out the blaster, it's worth it, but I don't think you'll be spending hours and hours in single-player mode. And that's coming from somebody who played RuneScape for like a decade. I'll PK you, brah. Come out in 55 wieldy. Freaking ice barrage, bro. Okay, other than single player, you also have multiplayer. This is where it gets cool. You can have one device or everybody has a device, and a device is referring to the smartphone. The one device option is great if I have my smartphone and I already have the app installed and I have these 3 blasters in front of me and my friends don't want to hassle with downloading the app. So the one device multiplayer setting allows all of the blasters to sync to the one phone. The person with the phone after you've begun doesn't really get a game advantage. You only have a countdown timer. The advantage here over the simple boot up mode is you get to keep track of score. So if one guy is just like destroying everybody, at the end of the game, you can look at whatever your blaster is named and see your score to see how well you destroyed your friends. As opposed to the simple boot up, after you killed somebody, they just have to reset their blaster and then continue playing, and there's no way to know how many lives they've gone through or anything like that. You could think of it like traditional Magic Mountain laser tag, like you don't have your smartphone out when you're in Magic Mountain. You're just running around zapping everybody, but then after you're done, you go out to the monitor and you say, hey, wow, I completely kicked Carl's butt, man. Then you look for all your sniper status accolades and all of that. I'm just kidding. Other than the one device, you have the all device, and this only works if everybody has their own smartphone with the app installed. You cannot link up 5 phones with like 10 blasters. It just doesn't work. And it really wouldn't be fair because the all device option allows you to get the power upgrades and the cool stuff. So the all device option requires everybody to sync independently to their phone, and then you have one phone that's the host and everybody joins them. Then the host controls the game, all the settings, and then begins. When you're using the all device option, you're able to see your ammo capacity, your hit points, and like your special power up icon in the center. You can unlock different power-ups and then you choose one in the beginning of each match. For example, you have like Power Shot, which changes this blaster without any upgrades from 2 damage to 7 damage, and you just get 1 shot. So it recharges on a timer, and once you're ready, you hit the reload button, and then that activates whatever power-up you chose. You also have an option to cause a little bit of damage to all your opponents, Radar, which briefly pings based on like Bluetooth or GPS, I don't know how it works, Health Pack, which gradually regenerates your own health, and Heal Allies, so you can like shoot at your friends to recharge their health. So this concept is really cool, and it's kind of turning Call of Duty into real life like laser guns. So you can get into the strategery of it all and kind of like sync up to your friends, so you can choose, okay, you're gonna use this perk, I'm gonna use this one, so you can kind of like strategize. In addition to that, you can upgrade your blaster and like your equipment. You can increase the health or your hit points, the damage you output. You can shrink your respawn time or your reload time. And you can upgrade those by using the little in-game tokens that you can earn in single player mode or in multiplayer mode. And they're called the Nerf Laser Ops points. So you can just accumulate those and then you spend them on upgrading your guns. It's a pretty cool system. The app is free, so you can download it and explore it without actually purchasing the blaster. personal opinion on the blasters themselves, they're mechanically pretty solid. I like the design. The grips aren't my favorite, but they work since it's laser tag. But I'm way outside of my comfort zone here. I mean, it has the Nerf logo on it, but this isn't foam. I'm not a laser enthusiast, but I still think it's a really cool concept. I really appreciate the quick boot up. You don't have to sync it to a phone if you don't want to, because let's get real, you don't want to do that every time. So if you're like, hey, do you want to play laser tag? And somebody's skeptical, the best way to annoy that friend and to make sure they never want to play again is to make them deal with a download and then messing with the phone settings and making all of that work. And then like 30 minutes in, you're like, okay, well now I have to go home and I can't even play laser tag. So I'd like that you power up, you change teams and you pew pew if you want to. It's super fast. But as you and your friends get more into it, you can use the app, upgrade your gun, and get more tactical and more strategic and stuff. And that's really cool that it can kind of scale with you. The barrier to entry is super fast, but then it can also get more technical and advanced as you get better. Or not even better, just interested. And I also love that the receiver is built into the blaster, so you're not dealing with a vest thing. There's always that one cheater running around, like shooting around walls or whatever, dealing with different body types, and sometimes you're not even trying to cheat, but you just kind of pop your head up and shoot. Having the receiver adjacent to the emitter is solid. Other than blatantly cheating by covering the receiver with your hand, it'd be pretty difficult to get an unfair advantage without somebody knowing it. Laser tag is one of those things you can do a million things to do it wrong. There are only so many things you can do right, and I think they did pretty much everything right. Except for that grip. That little finger indentation, it looks cool, but doesn't fit my hand, so it bothers me. And I nearly forgot the most important performance benchmark ever, the chronograph. Amazingly, both blasters fire at about the same muzzle velocity, and it works out to approximately 983,600,000 FPS, which is way above that elite par of 70 feet per second. After all, it is the speed of light, since they're IR emitters. Nerd joke. But I'm super curious how many of you guys are interested in the Nerf Laser Ops Pro series, so please leave a comment in the section below. Let me know what you're thinking about this. I'm sure many of you are like me who you just want to see a dart fly through the air. When you get that headshot, you want to see the flinch and not just see the lights glow and you get the extra points. And I mean, Xbox is fun, but when I'm running around with my friends shooting like that analog Nerf dart, shooting a flywheel blaster and that's suddenly analog next to this like space age weaponry. Oh my gosh, I'm rejecting this change. I feel like I'm using a bow and arrow shooting a Nerf dart, and these are the new firearms. Like, what? I totally understand why they didn't want to use firearms. Clearly firearms are superior, but, well, you can't really shoot a Nerf gun user with one of these. Well, you can shoot the IR at them all you want, but without the receiver, I mean, their Nerf darts are still going to bother you. Your little IR can't bother them. So I'll stay on the Flywheel Master Race team, and Springer guys, we can all join up and all gang up in the laser guys. Yeah, there's no such thing as a Springer peasant now. Now it's Springer Master Race, Flywheel Master Race, Airgun Master Race, Dart Master Race, man. Analog projectiles. Oh dear, this is going to turn into a motivational speech on rejecting future tech. I'll stop right there. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please leave a comment in the section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my review. When these hit the market, I'll be sure to add purchase links in the description box below. That concludes this video review, or review is probably a strong word for it. Me rambling for hours. Labels irrelevant. That's this video. Thanks so much for watching, bros, and as always, stay tactical.